how's everyone doing tonight? John Schaefer with you. It is a Wednesday night edition of the wrap-up show. Padres win big over the Reds, snap that mini two-game slide, win the game. In the process, we find out they have lost Xander Bogaerts for the foreseeable future to a shoulder fracture, left shoulder fracture for Xander Bogaerts. So we'll talk about it all. A lot of discussion about what that means for the Padres moving forward as they wrap up this road trip on Thursday morning. They'll be back home. The Yankees will be here. Juan Soto and the Yankees will be here this upcoming weekend. So make your way in, settle in, grab a drink, grab some food, and let's talk some Padres baseball. Here's the first things first. Please subscribe. You're on content for Padres fans. Smash the like button for me if you wouldn't mind. Follow me on X if you wouldn't mind, at John Schaefer. Appreciate the super chats, really do. You can click the $ below the chat box. It's hard to keep up with the chat, obviously, doing a solo show. Jim is off for the rest of the week. He's getting married on Saturday, but I am here for you tonight, and I'll be with you tomorrow on John and Jim, San Diego Sports 760 at 3 p.m. So, again, if you're here, please subscribe. Appreciate the super chats. Click the $ below the chat box. Appreciate the memberships as well. You can click the join button down below. You get emojis, and you get badges. So there's a couple of ways to go here. I mean, we could start with the game, or we could start with Xander Bogaerts. I think the more impactful of the two is obviously the long-term circumstances surrounding Xander Bogaerts. So we know two things can be true. I mean, Xander has not performed, whether it was 2023 by and large, and then to start 2024, he was actually worse than 2023. So that's a factual statement. I mean, he hasn't performed. He's got a sub 600 OPS. He hasn't produced near the way he's capable of. But it's also, in my opinion, a loss, and a real one, to not have him for a significant period of time. And what's a significant period of time? Months. And that's what Kevin Acee reported earlier today in the Union Tribune. It sounds like he will be back, hopefully, at some point this year, but we're talking about months, folks. I mean, at least a couple of months. You fast forward a couple of months, you're through the All-Star break, you're pushing the trade deadline. So it is a loss. There's no question about it. And I've been saying today on the radio, and I'll say it again here tonight, and I think I probably said it yesterday. For this team, in my opinion, to truly reach its ceiling, I would suspect that Xander Bogaerts would play a role in that. Now, it hasn't worked out that way the first 50 games of the year, and then he gets hurt. But I think if you could, snap your fingers and look into the future, you would hope that Bogaerts would play a positive role for this team, maybe in the final 50 games of the season, and hopefully in the postseason as well, assuming that they get there. But it's a loss. Again, he hasn't been near the player I think a lot of Padres fans expected him to be, whether it was last year or this year, but you're losing a guy that has won 2 World Series, that is obviously was highly sought after when he joined the Padres, has not lived up to the contract. You hate to lose a player of his stature at this point in his career with San Diego as well, because you're thinking about that 11-year deal. You're really thinking about the first 5 years, I think. Even when they signed that deal, we said, this first 5 years are what you're probably paying for, and you've already got the lost season of 2023. When the team didn't play well, and he didn't play particularly well, and dealt with a wrist. And now you're going to deal with this in 2024, where I hope it's not a fully lost season, but it feels like it could be a lost season where he didn't hit for 50 games, and now he's going to be on the IL, presumably for at least the next 50 games. The question is, can anything be salvaged in the final, stretch of time, hopefully when he returns here in 2024? Otherwise, you're looking at 2025 in terms of his first opportunity to really make an imprint on the Padres organization. So, and that would be the 3rd year of the deal. So, I think it kind of starts there with Xander. Now, here's the good news, if there's any good that comes out of it, because obviously an injury like this, a fractured shoulder, isn't a good thing, especially for a regular for the Padres. But I feel like AJ Preller has put this team in a situation where they can overcome some injuries. Nobody ever wants to have a significant injury, but over 162, there's probably an inevitability to it around baseball. But look at the way he's bolstered in terms of depth since the season has started, whether it's in the rotation with Dylan Cease, but position player-wise, I mean, he's added and added and added. Luis Arraez is a second baseman. He's not a great defensive player, but he's a brilliant offensive player, and he had 4 hits here tonight, and he's been unbelievable, just unbelievable in a Padres uniform. So you've got Luis Arraez, so that's basically plug and play for Bogaerts if needed. I think you can get creative as well, because you got a lot of positional flexibility / versatility, I would say, with the Padres. But the pieces that they've added here, even since the season has started, Donovan Solano is now, a pretty significant part of this team, I would say, not as a regular, but as a depth, bench piece. Then you're adding David Peralta, who has spent, 10 plus years in the big leagues, most of that time in the NL West. Started here today for the Padres. I think getting an RBI ground out, the 7-3 win. So, they've added some nice bench/depth pieces that I think could play a role, specifically now that you're without Xander Bogaerts. And we'll see what role that plays. I think AJ Preller, within the last couple of weeks, said on San Diego Sports 760 with Darren Smith that good teams have good depth. And, the Padres may need it. They've already had some pitchers go on the IL. Fortunately, those stints have been relatively short. This Bogaerts injury is the first significant setback for the Padres. And again, if you look at it from the glass half full perspective, he wasn't carrying the team, obviously. I mean, he was not carrying the team offensively. I mean, he was hitting for the last week. The one part you don't like about it is, like, was he turning a corner? Was he healthy? Was he swinging a better bat? He had that new bat, the Axe bat. I think he had hit in 6 consecutive games before the injury, had a 900 OPS in those 6 games. So, you're without Xander Bogaerts, but it's not like you're without Jurickson Profar, as crazy as that sounds. But Profar has been unbelievably effective for this team, as good of a player as they've had. It's not like you're without Jake Cronenworth, who has really carried his weight at first base. It's not like you're without Fernando Tatis Jr. or Manny Machado, who you think may have higher offensive upside than Xander Bogaerts. But you're without a regular and a guy that is clearly, among the leaders of the team, even though he hasn't performed as if he's a leader on the team. So we'll see how they overcome it. Again, I think they have the flexibility and versatility with their position players where, it's not that it's the easiest thing in the world, but truthfully, I don't know if it's the hardest thing in the world. I think in the short term, it wouldn't have been a problem. You miss him for 7-10 days. You put Luis Arraez at second base and you deal with the repercussions and you probably don't even feel them. I suspect, and hopefully I'm wrong, I suspect that over, 45, 60, 75 days, you kind of feel the impact of being down a regular, and not just a regular, a guy that is capable of being a really good regular when he's right. And we have seen it. I mean, we saw it in April last year when he burst onto the scene with the Padres. It was really encouraging. I think Padres fans were really excited for his first few weeks in a Padres uniform, and then the wheels fell off. And I don't know if it was the wrist or what it was, but he did not play well. He did not hit with men in scoring position. Granted, it's all those double plays. And then he did play well late, but the season was decided, and it was hard to really read much in to what he did in the final month of the season. I was expecting more, obviously. I think Padres fans in general were expecting more, and we'll see. I mean, at this point, all you can do is hope that he gets back healthy because nobody wants to see injuries. I understand he hasn't performed well. I do get that, but nobody wants to see injuries. I don't think it's good for anyone. It's clearly not good for the Padres. And, whether you like Xander Bogaerts or not, he's going to be a part of this franchise and organization moving forward. He's not going anywhere. Will be a significant piece, I would think, in 2025, 2026, 2027, and then you'll go from there. Maybe the conversation changes at some point in this contract. He's getting paid like a guy that needs to produce, obviously, making the $26 or $27 million per year. He hasn't lived up to it to this point, and we'll see when the Padres do get him back. So that's the discouraging part of the conversation, and I can entertain your questions on it. If you have comments on it, you can click the dollar sign below the chat box. We'll get your super chats here tonight. I think the other part of tonight is tonight, and that's why we do, essentially a nightly and daily wrap-up show. I thought the Padres played well here today. They had basically, fallen asleep at the wheel offensively the last couple of games, somewhat understandable with the travel and 3 games in 30-plus hours. And today they strike first. Luis Arraez's first home run of the season, part of a 4-hit attack for Arraez. You can't say enough good things about Luis Arraez. You can't. I mean, he's been that good. 330 overall in the season, well above that as a Padre. I think maybe 382. Do I have that right, guys? 382 as a Padre. So we get you started with a home run to right, and you're feeling good against Nick Martinez, old friend. And then Michael King immediately gives it back. He gives up a solo home run. We've talked about King, how he's been among the leaders in home runs allowed this year. But from that point on, he really pitched well, ran into a little bit of trouble in the 6th inning, nearly went through 7 full innings to give the bullpen a reprieve that is necessary after pitching, after having the doubleheader with 18 innings, after getting just 3 innings yesterday from Joe Musgrove. They could have used an outing like the one Michael King had today, so I think it's pretty encouraging. But King settled into this game, and then the Padres offense did what the Padres offense has done a lot, which was piecemeal together innings, not necessarily with power, but with taking advantage of opportunities. Multiple hits in an inning. To some extent, they've singled teams to death. I've said that a few times here this year. They did have the home run from Arraez in the 1st inning. Machado had two doubles. Machado here in his last 5 games has turned it on. He has 7 hits in his last 5 games. I know he was 0 for 4 yesterday. So I think he's now 7 for his last 20, which is really encouraging. That's 350. Over his last 5 games, we had two doubles here today as well. And then the Padres, again, just kind of put together some innings, got a run in the fourth to take a 2-1 lead. At a base running blunder, they could have had larger than a 3-run inning, I think, at the fifth inning. Again, I was on the air at the time watching in studio and doing John and Jim, but they took then a 5-1 lead, and then they tacked on two more in the sixth, and all of a sudden it's 7-1, and you feel pretty good. Now, the Reds, to some extent, threatened. I mean, they had it 7-3. They may have had a base runner on, in a 7-3 game, but the bullpen has been so good, folks. We were really critical at times of their inability to get the ball to Robert Suarez, right? Padres fans have been talking about that for a good portion of the first 50-plus games of the year. That was a story maybe for a month plus, that you had a really elite closer and you had some good starting pitching at times with Dylan Cease and Yu Darvish and Michael King, even a Joe Musgrove occasionally this year, Matt Waldron, beyond occasionally this year. But then you had some ineffectiveness in the back end of that bullpen, whether it was a Wandy Peralta, De Los Santos, maybe a time or two. I think Matsui has turned it around. But they have found a way to get the ball to Suarez, and Jeremiah Estrada has played a role in that. Wandy Peralta today, ending the third scoreless. Suarez in a non-save situation today struck out two in a scoreless inning, lowering his ERA to a minuscule 0.42. So it's been a very good road trip, hasn't it? I mean, they're 4-2 on the road, and this road trip included 4 games in Atlanta. No matter what happens, and I know you don't want to lose a series to Cincinnati, and that's all we'll hear about for 24 hours if that's the case, and that's why tomorrow the rubber match, Matt Waldron, is important, and it is. I completely buy that. You don't want to, quote-unquote, give it away. I mean, listen, even if you don't win tomorrow, you have a winning road trip, which is a good trip. A 7-game trip with 4 games in Atlanta, a winning road trip is a good trip, let's be honest with each other. But a 5-2 trip is really encouraging and potentially momentum building and get you back home over 500 as well, approaching that 1/3 mark of the season, which will come after Friday's game. So they're 26-26. And I think, again, there's a lot to like. 4-2 trip. Michael King, a quality start here tonight. Allowed just 4 hits in this game, taking advantage of a beat up, dare I say, I don't want to say bad, but not very good Reds team that has guys littered on the IL. Just not playing great baseball anywhere, whether it's home or road. They've been a terrible home team. I think maybe 1-8 in their last 9 home games. And this is just an opportunity, is what I would say. Again, you got Matt Waldron pitching. It's not like you're going to be some heavy, prohibitive favorite tomorrow against Frankie Montas. You won't. Maybe it'll be probably kind of like an even money game, maybe even a plus 110 type situation, plus 115 situation for the Padres, or maybe minus 110, minus 115. You get the point. It's a bit of a coin flip potentially on paper, Montas, Waldron. But again, this is what separates maybe 2023 Padres from 2024 if we have them pegged right. If we have them pegged right, I think one of the separators can be winning a game like tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Win that game, get home 5-2, and put all your eggs in the Yankees basket and get excited for Yu Darvish on Friday night against a really good Yankees team that's winning 67% of the time. It's got a red-hot Juan Soto, who, of course, spent a year and a half here and is set to become a free agent at the end of the year. So that's kind of where we are. And where we are, I think, is encouraged, right? Optimistic, not head over heels, not willing to say that, this team has everything that it needs. I mean, they don't. They're a 500 team that just lost significant regular, arguably, who hasn't had a good year in Xander Bogaerts. But there are some things that are encouraging, like this offense continuing to come through, and including, not just that, obviously, but Luis Arraez. This addition has been so meaningful for the Padres over his first 16 or 17 games. So I'm going to get to the chat. Please subscribe if you're here. There's a couple hundred people here live, which is terrific because the Padres win big. If you've never been here or if you've never subscribed, if you wouldn't mind subscribing, I would appreciate it. If you wouldn't mind hitting the like button for me, I would appreciate it. Solo edition of the wrap-up show. And I appreciate your super chats. I'll get to your comments. If you click the $ below the chat box, they appear for me on screen, and we'll make sure to get your super chats here tonight. We'll get back to the comments and the chat and the conversation in a moment. I do want to remind our viewers about my good friend Mark Nimitz at Farmers Insurance. We can't do this without your support. Everyone that is here tonight can't do it without you, and can't do it without my longtime friend on the wrap-up show, our title sponsor, Mark Nimitz. He's been with us through 3 years. He's been with us on YouTube for 3 years. He's a terrific insurance agent. How do I know? Because he's my insurance agent for life insurance and homeowners and earthquake insurance. He saved us so much money, so much time. We had a claim we had to file in 2022, and he saved my wife and I and my family thousands of dollars and dozens of hours of time. You can click the link in the description down below to get to Mark's website, which you see on the screen right now, and you can get everything you need. Free quotes online. You can call Mark, by the way, and you'll get everything you need by calling Mark as well, because he'll talk to you about the Padres. He'll talk to you about saving money. I mean, you switch your insurance to Mark, he can save you $750 or more. That is a ton of money, obviously. So consider doing that. The next time you have an insurance need, before you just renew, give a call to Mark Nimitz at Farmers Insurance, lifelong Padres fan, native San Diegan, longtime supporter of the channel. And if you have any insurance need, take it from me. He is a great, great insurance agent, longtime supporter of the channel. And if you have a need, Mark's going to hook you up. So click that link in the description down below. And I agree with you. I agree with you. Thank you. Life in the Temecula Valley with James Shelby. James, loyal viewer of the Wrap Up Show. Appreciate you hanging out here tonight. Okay, so where do you go with the conversation here tonight? I think there's a few places you could go with it. I think that oftentimes human nature would be, from a team perspective, you lose a player like Xander Bogaerts. No matter what you think of what he's meant to this team on field, he clearly plays a role in that clubhouse. He's one of the highest earners on the team. It's a setback. You kind of have to figure things out, and it would be kind of natural to need a moment to kind of pick up the pieces from a team perspective, but that didn't happen here today. And I think they kind of understood the importance of this game, and let me explain as to why. That we already saw a week ago. It's like, you kind of have to learn from history or it's going to repeat itself. We saw a week ago they played really well against the LA Dodgers at home. They just did. They took 2 out of 3. They played well against the Dodgers this year. By and large, they played well against good teams this year. And then you're thinking, well, clearly, if they just beat the Dodgers, they're going to beat the Rockies. Maybe they don't sweep them, but they're going to win the series, right? And then they didn't. I mean, not only did they not win the series, they didn't win a game in the series. And then it's kind of like deja vu all over again, or you're thinking for a moment. You take 3 out of 4 from the Braves. Not only do you take 3 out of 4 from the Braves, you do it on the road. And you're feeling really good about yourself in the moment, and then you lose game 1 to Cincinnati. And you're like, are we going to repeat what just happened last week here? Are they really going to drop consecutive games to Cincinnati, or, dare I say, get swept by the Reds this week at Great American Ballpark? And they didn't. And they came out with a lot more than they showed, obviously, yesterday. This goes back to the conversation we had yesterday, which is like, why can't they hit left-handed pitching? We tabled that conversation for another 24 hours, obviously, because tonight was Nick Martinez, and they really hit him. And tomorrow, Frankie Montas, by the way, obviously a right-handed pitcher as well. But I think Martinez allowed maybe 8 or 9 hits in this game. Let's see, 4 2/3 innings, 8 hits, 5 runs, all earned. Only struck out 2, and the Padres are really good in that category. There's not a lot of teams piling up strikeouts against San Diego right now. But overall, 14 hits. 14 hits in this game. Obviously, Luis Arraez with the monster game, a lot like his debut with the Padres when he had 4 hits. He had 4 hits here today, getting his batting average on the season all the way up to 330, drove in a couple of runs, hit that solo home run. And you're still trying to get Fernando Tatis Jr. to turn over, right? 1 for 5 is under 250. He's under 750 right now with his OPS. Profar could not be more impactful than he is. He's just sitting on that 339. He's like been between 333 and 340 for the last week. Has an OPS still at 948. And at some point, it's not just a good month or a good 2 months. It's just a good season for Jurickson Profar. Yeah, I'm crossing my fingers. He can do it for not just 2 months, but 4 months, and not just 4 months, but 6 months. But at some point, it's not just a small sample size. I mean, it's a huge sample size right now for Jurickson Profar. He's right in the middle of the lineup. Jake Cronenworth has been terrific for this team. He's right around an 800 OPS. Maybe the best sign of all, it's not even a maybe. I think the best sign of all is Manny Machado. Manny Machado hopefully is coming to life. His last 5 games have been really encouraging, and he's had impactful moments. It hasn't been soft or, meaningless in what he's been able to do. 7 for his last 20 over those 5 games. That game-winning go-ahead 2-run double the other day in Atlanta when they came back all the way from 5-0 down. One of the better wins of the season, truthfully, for the Padres. He followed it up today with 2 more doubles. So that's really as big as anything for the Padres. We can talk about anything else. But if Manny Machado is able to get hot and hit 350 for a month, or 2 weeks even. I mean, at this point, it's been close to maybe a week. But if he can get hot and hit 300, hit 330 for 15, 20, 25 games, I think it goes a long way. How many times have you heard us say over the years, as Manny goes, the team goes, right? I mean, you've heard that time and time again. As Manny goes, the team goes. So we'll see if that's the case or not. But again, Manny, a couple of big hits in Atlanta led to a series win, a couple of big hits here today, part of a win overall for the Padres, 7-3. So that's really good news. I thought Merrill hit the ball hard a couple of times. He was 1 for 4. Campy had a base hit. I mean, everyone got involved. Tyler Wade is always involved in everything. He just is when he gets an opportunity. And I don't think it's the worst thing in the world that Tyler Wade might get some additional opportunities because, he's played well when asked upon or called upon. He has been impactful. He's been important for this team. So that's your story offensively. And then again, Michael King, you think about, he's going to miss the Yankees. He's going to miss his former team this weekend because of the rain that happened in Atlanta that, pushed him back and altered the rotation, which means he's not going to face the New York Yankees. But I'll tell you what, it's a nice consolation prize, and that is getting a win in Cincinnati and pitching effectively and working deep into a game like he did here today. He went 6 2/3 innings, 6 2/3 innings, and did allow 3 runs, but struck out 6. But I mean, he was not away from going through 7 innings. I don't think he was thrilled about leaving the game. I don't think he was thrilled about leaving the game, but circumstance is going to dictate that. And it is a long year, and you're asking him to increase his innings load from last year to this year automatically if he's able to stay healthy. He didn't throw a ton of pitches, 92 pitches, 62 strikes. You love that. He works all the way almost through the 7th inning on 92 pitches. How many pitches is that per inning? 90 divided by 7, 12 or 13. He's in that 13 range. That's really good for a starting pitcher. You keep it under 15, you give yourself a chance to go 6 or 7 innings. 15 pitches per inning is 90 pitches through 6, 105 through 7. That's the threshold you want to sit at. If you sit under 15 pitches per inning, you give yourself a chance to go 7+ innings in the big league. So that was really good. I remember I looked up at one point. It was like the 6th inning. He had thrown like 55 pitches. I'm like, oh, wow. And they got to him a little bit in that 6th inning, and maybe he labored a little bit and wore down a little bit in that 6th or 7th inning. But overall, I think pretty encouraging for Wandy Peralta. And then Robert Suarez, you can't ask anything more than what Robert Suarez is giving this team right now. And that kind of opens up a whole nother conversation. I don't know if anyone read the article from Buster Olney at ESPN about like the Josh Hader rules that we could get into, which I didn't even realize until it was written fully. We've speculated on it and theorized on it, and we've blamed Bob Melvin and we blamed Josh Hader, and we talked through it, right, as a community and a fan base over the last 2 years. I mean, the truth is what Buster Olney laid out in talking with Hader's agent is they had rules, and you kind of understand some of the rules because Hader was taken advantage of with the Brewers in an arbitration case. And essentially from that point on, it became all business for Josh Hader. So he was jaded by the process, which ultimately you could argue hurt the Padres. Now he played a big role, 2022 postseason, even last year, even though they weren't a great team, he had a good year. Now he wasn't as mendable as someone like Robert Suarez, who just screams like team first. And I kind of understand why Hader didn't play that role with the Padres when you understand the backstory of what happened with the Brewers in the arbitration case. But the Padres knew what they were getting. That's what I found most interesting from the conversation that Buster Olney put at ESPN.com, that when the Padres traded for Hader in 2022, and now we're crying over spilled milk. I understand it. We're going back, a year and a half or whatever. But to lay it out for people that might be curious, the Padres and AJ Preller were told or asked to abide by the Hader rules, which I don't think were fully spelled out, but were essentially this. You're not pitching more than back-to-back days. You're not going more than 3 outs. You're not working innings other than the 9th, by and large. And you're only working in safe situations unless you're pitching in a tie game potentially at home. And the Padres did abide by those rules. Now, he did have a save or 2 or 3 that went beyond 3 innings over his tenure. He did have a great series, obviously, in the postseason against the LA Dodgers, including a 4-out save. Now, we never saw him against the Phillies, right, in Game 5. And now we probably know the reason why. He wasn't going 5 outs. Where I think if you could fast forward to this postseason and you're in an identical spot and you have Robert Suarez in your bullpen with his .42 ERA, he's going 5-6 outs. in Game 5 of the National League Championship Series. So, and that's not to totally discount Josh Hader. It's just not. I understand it from his perspective. And by the way, it worked out perfectly for him. He got his 95 or $100 million, one of the highest paid relievers in the history of the sport. So he got his, which ultimately was his goal. And the Padres have theirs, which is Robert Suarez right now. And the Padres didn't offer Josh Hader a contract, nor should they have. As we talked about at the end of last year, it wouldn't have made sense. You went 82 and 80, had this 1 ERA closer, and you still went 82 and 80. So that's the long and the short of it, obviously, with Josh Hader. But I think Padres fans are pretty thrilled with what they've got going right now, which is a dynamite closer, a terrific closer who's willing to do a little bit of everything, I would say, at this point in his career for you, which is great, obviously, which is terrific for the Padres. All right, we're going to get back to the conversation in a moment. I've been telling you about our brand new partner here on the wrap-up show, our friends at Finley. Great company. I mean, really doing phenomenal work. Local San Diego startup, huge Padres fans, San Diego through and through, as I always tell you. One of their advisors is Mark Grant, right? The Padre, the broadcaster, you hear him all the time, obviously on Padres.tv. Here's the easiest way to explain this company, and it's such a cool company, and I'm going to tell you more about them over the next 60 seconds or so. Finley allows fans to participate in the future earnings of real athletes, such as their first athlete that they've signed, Shedry Vargas, one of the top prospects in the Texas Rangers organization. You, our viewers, can support a rising prospect and get paid a piece of his major league earnings by clicking the link in the description down below. He was at one point the top prospect in the Arizona Complex League. He's still only 19 years of age. Considered a Rangers prospect sleeper, I think, by Keith Law. Signed for very little money, very little money. They're raising capital that will allow him to focus on baseball year-round. If you know the Fernando Tatis Jr. backstory, I'm not calling Shedry Vargas Fernando Tatis Jr. Let me be clear. I have no idea what Vargas is going to become. But Tatis did a deal with a company called Big League Advance, where he gave up 10% of future earnings for guaranteed earnings while he was in the minor leagues. Imagine that if you could have invested as an individual in a player of Fernando Tatis Jr.'s caliber, ultimately signing that $340 million deal. You can invest, as you can see on the screen right now, in Vargas for as little as $96 and then reap the rewards of dividends based on his success in the major leagues. It's as simple as that. $96 could turn into truly thousands of dollars. You could make a larger investment and it could turn into even more money. So if you're curious, if you're looking for more information, really cool company. They're doing outstanding work. Now is the time to get involved. If you're looking to do so, click the link in the description down below. Again, investment starting at just $96 in one of the top prospects in the Texas Rangers organization by the name of Shedry Vargas. All right, with you here on the wrap-up show. Again, if you are here, if you would not mind subscribing for me, all right, solo edition of the wrap-up show, year-round content for Padres fans. Please subscribe. We have year-round content for you. You can smash the like button for me. I appreciate that. Appreciate the super chats as well. You can click the $ below the chat box. All right, let's get back to it here. I mean, I'm trying to think of the conversation I've been having over the last 24 hours or so on John and Jim. I mean, I think the conversation last night on the wrap-up show centered a lot around a couple of things, one of which is, are they going to hit left-handed pitching? And that is something that we need to keep an eye on moving forward. Now, again, you're not going to face near as many left-handed starters as you're going to face right-handed starters. And also, while it feels like an aberration, like why are your right-handed hitters struggling against left-handed pitching? I had Kyle Glazer from Baseball America, formerly Baseball America, on John and Jim earlier today. We talked about a lot of things. We talked about their struggles against left-handed pitching. He thought it's got to be more, that it can't be just a coincidence, almost like it's an approach thing. There's got to be a reason for their struggles against left-handed pitching. Now, I then asked, what's the reason for the Padres' 10-16 start at home and their really good road record? And he said, you know what? Let's give that more time. The sample size isn't large enough to say that they're not a good home team because they've played 26 home games and they haven't been good at home. And I get that, but he did think the sample size was large enough against left-handed pitching that we could start jumping to some conclusions that they're not a good hitting team against left-handed pitching. So it's in the back of my mind. Now, they hit Max Fried the other day. They did, and you're thinking, oh, wow, they're turning a corner. I mean, you hit one of the best left-handed pitchers in baseball, and then they lay eggs against Chris Sale, Andrew Abbott over the last couple of days. So, I'm not at a point where I'm going to lose sleep on it. Because again, it's not like if you were the worst hitting team in baseball against right-handed pitching, you'd have a serious problem. But what percent of starters are left-handed? 25%. So 75% are right-handed. And a year ago, they hit left-handed pitching. And right now, they're hitting right-handed pitching. So I guess if you could choose one or the other, you prefer they struggle against lefties as opposed to righties. But it is something that we're going to have to keep an eye on. It's something that's been a little bit perplexing. All right, let me get to the first super chat of the night that just rolled in from Mauricio. Appreciate you, man. Again, if you want to contribute to the channel, if you support the work, if you want to get involved, if you want to make sure I get your comment here tonight, you click the $ below the chat box. I get to every single super chat here tonight. Truly appreciate it. Truly appreciate your support of the work. He says, let's see here. Nicky Mart looked like a disowned puppy begging for the Padres to take him back. Well, he's in a little bit of an interesting spot. I would say he's in a similar spot to the one he was with, actually, with the Padres, other than the fact that the Reds are really struggling right now. I mean, they're asking him to fill multiple roles. He's going to start for them. He's going to come out of their bullpen. That's who he's been. He hasn't gotten off to the best start this year with an ERA that is pushing 5. I'm trying to look at his game logs because I think he's done exactly what he did here. I mean, he's made some starts. He's come on in relief. So he's asked to be, a little bit of everything, but like a yo-yo guy back and forth from the bullpen to the rotation. And, he's had some bright spots when I look at some of his, I look at his game log and, he's had some games where he's been effective. He's had some other games where he's been ineffective. I liked him a lot as a Padre. To Mauricio's point, I thought he was a good player. I don't think he was, perfect. I don't think he was, their best player. You could argue his merits, though. I think he gave you some things that others weren't willing or able to give you. If he needed to be a long man, he could. If he needed to start, he could as well. He kept you in games. I thought he was a quote unquote gamer, as well. So, I think the Padres, look at it this way, especially in, professional sports and with as much movement as there is, I think it worked out probably for both sides. I mean, Nick Martinez got an opportunity that he took advantage of, and the Padres are probably, fine without him. I mean, I'm trying to think like in this current iteration of the Padres, how much they'd really use him. I mean, I guess you could argue that he could be fighting for that 5th spot in your rotation, or he could be a long man potentially in your bullpen. I think he'd provide value. I do, right? I don't think he has no value. Certainly, I think he had value. Thought he was a good player for the Padres, and now you're on a team. Listen, I mean, if the Reds somehow can salvage their season, it's because they get healthier. But their season's on the brink where you fall 15 under, and your season's essentially over. Like not 100% of the time, but 90-something% of the time, even in today's baseball with the extra wild card. Yeah, we know the Washington Nationals, yada yada yada. 2019 were well under 500 and turned their season around. I don't know if this Reds team is that. Now, they did get off to a good start, and they have dealt with injuries, but they are in a spot where, what are they, like 4-16 in their last 20, where you have another week like this and you fall 14 games under 500 and your season's cooked. So, and that can be tough because it's only May. So you got a lot of baseball still in front of you, a ton of baseball still in front of you. So we'll see. But I appreciate the super chat, Mauricio. Really do. Appreciate you guys. And again, if you're here, please subscribe. If you're here, appreciate the super chats as well. Am I using the wrong audio? I'm such an idiot. I cannot. Okay. I wasn't even going to get your text, Jim, because I thought you'd be bothering me, which you did, but I'm glad that I read your text. So I was doing the entire show and you were picking up audio from my earbuds as opposed to the microphone. And I'm an idiot. How does this happen every single show, Jim, that you're not on? There's always something. If Jim isn't here, I screw. By the way, Jim, you have to, like John and Jim, I need to talk to you about it later. There was a whole interview that wasn't even on YouTube. And I don't know if that was my fault or not. Anyway, hopefully the audio is better right now. Is the audio better, guys? I knew Jim was good for something. Jim, how's your golf round going? Are you still playing at 10 o'clock at night or using glow-in-the-dark golf balls? You missed a good Brent's back page, by the way. Okay, John, thank you for the super chat. I'm such an idiot. Gosh, Jim, text me earlier. Someone should have told me if I have an audio issue, although I don't really see the chat when I'm doing these solo shows unless it's a super chat. So thank you guys. Gosh, idiot. John says, thank you, John. Very generous with the super chat. Really do appreciate you guys with the supers. He says, seems like June is a crucial month to make or break this season. Arizona and San Francisco are getting hot. We need to get a few games over 500 to stay in this. Sucks we lost Xander, but we need Manny and Tatis to step up. I'm all with what you're saying, John. I really am. So, like, looking at what's to come for the Padres, and June is coming, believe it or not. That's kind of crazy, isn't it? Like, we're almost in June. It's crazy. I mean, it's like, what do they say about having a child? Like, the days are long, but the years are short. I say the same thing about baseball seasons. Having worked in minor league baseball, did you know that, Jim? If you're watching, man, those seasons are long, but they're really not, with the benefit of like looking back on them. So, in these seasons, I mean, it's 162 games. It's crazy, but it's like life. It just kind of flies by. So he's saying make or break June. I mean, Jim's been talking about the first couple of weeks of August, like, hey, you're going to get to August, you're going to be in it, you're going to be a few games up or a few games back, but you're going to be in it. Can you take advantage of that? I mean, I look at June, and it's a road trip to Kansas City and the Angels, and then home for the Diamondbacks and the A's, and then in New York against the Mets. So there's like that, 15 game stretch that seems reasonable with Angels, A's, Mets in it. And you go to Philadelphia. Philadelphia's had their best 50 game stretch in like forever. So, every stretch in a season, I guess I agree with what you're saying, John, but you could argue because of how many games there are, like every stretch is important. Every month is critical. You never want to have a 10 and 20 month, and you always could benefit from a 20 and 10 month. And they haven't had a 20 and 10 meaningful month other than like last September when they were out of it in a while. You'd have to go back a couple of years. So, yeah, I mean, I buy what you're selling, that, it is going to be important. They are going to have to do it without Xander. And they are going to need now when the big three becomes the big two, and none of them have been big other than us calling them the big three. At some point, you're going to need someone to be big. So is it Machado, who's been really good over the last 5 games? Is it Tatis, who has not been good? Like, he's had a really down May. Like, I thought, and this is anecdotal because I don't have it in front of me. I thought Tatis was a lot better in April than he has been in May. Does anyone else agree with that? Like, he has really, I don't know, not been, not disappeared, and not been invisible, but he hasn't had near the imprint or impact on games that I expected him to have. Like, again, we talked about this last night. This is year 2 from suspension and injuries, not year 1. Year 1, he got the pass, even though a lot of that stuff he did to himself, the suspension and the injuries. But we gave him the pass, and he said the right things, and he played his position well. Year 2, he's not getting the pass. He's just not. So your big 3 is a big 2, and the big 2 needs to step up. And that's what needs to happen for this team to get 5, 7, 9 games over 500, which is ultimately where we all want them to go and where they need to go. And maybe they're not far away from that. Like, you're only a good week away from being 5 games over 500. Like, you can say that about any 500 team. And the Padres, for whatever reason, just have not had a lot of, 8 and 2, 10-game stretches in recent history when it's mattered, or 12 and 3, 15 game stretches. Like, these are reasonable things. We're not saying go 20 and 1 over 21 games. We're saying, can you go 12 and 4 over 16 games? Can you go 13 and 4, 13 and 5 over 18 games? And I know they've played better recently. I want to say they're 12 and 8 in their last 20. That's good baseball. That's 600 baseball for 20 games. That's 4 games over 500. What has it gotten them? 26 and 26. Approaching 1/3 of the way through the season. So we need to see something get sustained here for the Padres. I think they're capable of doing it, and I think a lot of it will hinge on Manny Machado and Fernando Tatis Jr., and not, unfortunately, on Xander Bogaerts. Hopefully Bogaerts performs at some point later in the year, but it's going to be a while because, I mean, who even knows what comes of this injury? A broken shoulder? Like, what does that even entail? He fractured his shoulder. The bone has to heal, and then imagine the rehab process from there. So he says he's a quick healer. And I'm not going to doubt the fact that he returns. I think he probably will return. But what will he look like? And when will he return? And what impact will it have on the team when he does return? So thank you, John. Hopefully that kind of answered. I don't know if answered is the right word, but, discussed your question. So thank you. Appreciate the super chat from James Shelby. James, appreciate you, man. Really do. Thanks for hanging out here tonight. Good to have you in the chat. He says Wade is always in the mix when the team is hot. Nice little addition, right? Like, back end of your 26-man roster. He's been impactful. He's been important. Like, I think heading into the year, me and Jim spent a lot of time saying, man, this is not a very good bench, is it? At least on paper. It doesn't, there's no pop there, not a lot of major league experience, not a lot of feared hitters to provide slug. And now I don't feel the same way about their bench. I think they've got some flexibility. I think someone like Tyler Wade has had a really nice season. He's done a number of things well for this team. And Mike Schilt, I think Jose Azocar, by and large, has had a nice year. I think David Peralta is going to have real value for this team, likely coming off the bench more often than not. But I think he's going to provide real value for this team. And I think Donovan Solano has already provided real value. And then your backup catcher is a solid, serviceable backup catcher in Kyle Higashioka. So, yeah, I think they have a serviceable, if not beyond serviceable bench. Like I hear Peralta, Solano. I've seen the years that Wade and Zokar have had, and I like their bench. I think it's as good as it's been in years, truthfully. And again, it's not the sexiest. You don't have that, 40 home run threat off your bench. I mean, I don't know if teams really do anymore in baseball, but you don't have that like ridiculous power threat necessarily coming off your bench. But you got some guys that have a little bit of, offensive ability. Certainly, Solano is not a power hitter. Obviously, Peralta at this point in his career, you're not expecting great power from him, but he's been a professional hitter, right? People would tell you that about David Peralta. So I think there have been some savvy pickups, I would say, by AJ Preller, Tyler Wade being one of them, Donovan Solano being another, David Peralta. We'll see. It's only been a game, but hopefully paying dividends for the Padres as well. So appreciate the super chat. Appreciate you, James, for hanging out with us here tonight as well. I do want to remind our viewers, because we've had a lot of people take advantage of this offer. If you are not playing Underdog Fantasy, you need to be doing it right now. Click the link in the description down below. Use promo code PODSWRAP, and you'll get a 50% deposit match up to $250 of bonus cash, plus a free special pick, which means you deposit $500. Again, it's a lot of money. They'll give you free $250 for pick'ems and drafts. You deposit $20, they'll give you a free $10. And you get a free special pick. So you're halfway to a winner. All you got to do is click the link in the description down below and use promo code PODSWRAP. That's PADSWRAP. I've been playing and winning. Jim has been playing and winning as well. It's simple and it's easy. You can play Padres pick'ems as soon as tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Simple higher or lower games, right? Fantasy contests. Go 2 for 2, you're winning. You go as good as 5 for 5, you can win up to 100 times your money in a single night. So get that $250 first-time deposit offer. Get the free special pick. Click the link in the description down below and use promo code PODSWRAP. That's PADSWRAP. Again, promo code PODSWRAP. So the road trip's going to wrap up tomorrow. Matt Waldron, I think Matt Waldron has shown us a good amount here recently. Whether it's, I think, his last start against the Dodgers and then what he did against Atlanta. I mean, think about that matchup to start the trip. Like, that was a game that, maybe is the difference between having a winning trip or a losing trip. They're 4-2 right now on the trip. And you had Matt Waldron, Max Fried, Atlanta, a minus 300 favorite, essentially at home. Fried coming off like 4 consecutive brilliant starts. And Matt Waldron outpitched him in Atlanta. Now, you could argue you just don't know what you're going to get from the knuckleball. Fair. And he does have a 5 even ERA. So, nothing to necessarily write home about. But he's had some encouraging moments, hasn't he? He's had some good starts. And he's been in this rotation. And he's stuck as we turn the calendar to June, basically by, the end of next week or whenever it is. So, Waldron, Great American Ballpark. Do I cross my fingers a little bit because it's a launching pad? Yes. Reds offense has not been the offense that you'd expect it to be. Frankie Montas is a very capable right-handed starter that's had a good enough year for Cincinnati. So it's an intriguing matchup, is what I would say. Waldron and Montas on Thursday morning, and the Padres are in the midst of it now. No off days, and it's not a travel day, then an off day, and then get ready for the Yankees. No, I mean, you had the wraparound series, so you don't have the Thursday off day. I mean, basically, to start the year, they've had every Thursday off because they played the 2 games in Korea, which has given them extra off days. But I'm looking at April; they had 3 Thursdays off. I'm looking at May; they had the first 3 Thursdays off. They're playing tomorrow, and then they're off the following Thursday, which is May 30th, and then they're off a couple of Thursdays in June. I mean, they're off a lot of Thursdays, almost a majority of Thursdays this season, and we'll sprinkle in some Mondays in there as well in August, I think maybe July, August, September, truthfully. So, I got off days because they played the 2 games in Korea. Major League Baseball has added some additional off days by moving up the schedule as well. But it's a little bit of a tricky time because you have the 7 games and then you come home for 6 and there's no off days in there. So, a lot of games in a short period of time, including a doubleheader, which impacts your rotation. And, a homestand that you hope, not that you're expecting to get right because you're playing the Yankees. It's Yankees and Marlins. So it's like a tale of both, sides of baseball. Really good team and a really bad team, and a chance for Luis Arraez to take on his former team where he spent, a year and a half or whatever. But you'd like to see the Padres at some point put together a winning homestand, wouldn't you? 10-16. If they don't have a winning homestand, 6 more games go by and you go 3-3 and you're 13-19 at home. Or you don't go 3-3, you go worse than that. You're 12-20 at home if you go worse than that. So at some point, I do trust in this because even a year ago this happened. At some point, they'll get going at home. Like, I'd much rather be a good road team that's struggling at home than a good home team that struggles on the road. Why? Because there's a very good chance, because you're not going to win a division in all likelihood in the NL West, you will have to play a series potentially on the road in the postseason. So you're going to, hope to be if you go 30-50 on the road, essentially, and then you're, 50-30 at home and you squeak in or whatever, are you going to feel that good about playing a good team on the road, having gone 30-50 on the road? And teams do go 30-50 on the road and 50-30 at home. Like, that's very normal in Major League Baseball. This team ain't going 30-50 on the road this year. They'll be a lot better than that. They've gotten off to a really good start. They're one of the better road teams in baseball. They're also not going 30-50 at home. But my point is, I'd rather be battle tested and just trust in the fact that I'll get going eventually at home. It happened last year. They finished 5, 6, 7 games over 500 somehow last year at home, even though I remember talking about it in July. I think they were under 500 at one point in late July. And I'm like, are they ever going to get going at home? And they did, to their credit. It only takes a homestand, really. You go 6-1 on a homestand or 5-1, or you have a 9-game homestand, you go 7-2 or 6-3. And all of a sudden it can kind of change your fortunes at home. I suspect it's going to happen. Why do I say it? You're playing in front of 40,000 fans. It's an amazing environment. It's a great ballpark. Yeah, there's some things that have worked to their disadvantage for whatever reason. They don't hit near as well at home as they do on the road. And we've talked about that ad nauseum over the years on the wrap-up show. But I trust in the fact that at some point they'll get things going at home. And I'm encouraged by the fact that they've been a really good team on the road. I think it's a good combination. Somehow it adds up to 26-26, which means, we have the math. They're 10-16. On their home field at Petco, and they're 16-10 everywhere else. So the 16-10 is really encouraging and impressive. The 10-16, they have to do better, and they need to do it sooner rather than later. They'll have, I think, an opportunity to take advantage of it. Again, we'll see about the Yankees, who are really good, but Marlins, here are the home series after the Yankees: Marlins, Diamondbacks, A's. That's 10 games, not all in a row, but the next 3 home series after the Yankees is Marlins, Diamondbacks, A's. That's the type of circumstance where you'd love to go 7-3, potentially at home, maybe better, but 7-3, and then all of a sudden you look up and you got a 500 team at home at some point in June. So yeah, I mean, the road play is encouraging. The offense today is this the real Marty? Come on, Marty. First of all, Marty, it's been a hell of a night. Jim just texted me because I had my mic all screwed up. And Marty, what are you doing in the chat? By the way, if you are a subscriber or a fan of the wrap-up show, you absolutely have to subscribe to Marty's channel, Marty Time TV. Do I have that right, Marty? Why are you contributing with the super chat, by the way? And I don't even know if this is actually you or someone that's impersonating you, but thank you. No, this is not you, by the way. This is absolutely not you. Love the show. I just ate meatloaf in the bathtub. No, this is not you. But thank you for the super chat. Either way, regardless of whether it's Marty or not, support her channel. Subscribe to her channel. She does amazing work covering the Padres, as everyone knows. I'll see Marty this weekend at Jim's wedding. Marty, thanks for hanging out. I don't even think you're really hanging out, but we appreciate the fake Marty letting our viewers know to go to subscribe to Marty's channel. There's no chance in hell Marty's here live right now, I wouldn't think. But thank you, Marty. Thank you, Marty. Where were we, by the way? Back to tonight, to just kind of put a bow on tonight. Michael King, really good. I think that's good. We won't see him against the Yankees, as we said, but we will see him against the Marlins, beating up on Nick Martinez, really good. The offense, really good. Luis Arraez, I mean, where is this team? We say this about all kinds of players, right? Where is this team without Dylan Cease? Where is this team without Jerkson Profar? Where is this offense without Luis Arraez, who has won 2 batting titles with 2 different teams and is trying to become the first player in baseball history to win 3 batting titles with 3 teams? I mean, that's unbelievable. And no skipping a beat. Like, think about that. Juan Soto got traded here, and obviously there were some factors at play. We're human beings, right? You make a change in your life or your lifestyle, your career, your profession, your marriage, whatever, relationship, and that's really impactful, right? That's really, really impactful. And I think we felt it with Juan Soto. You feel it all the time. Deadline trade. Some players are able to perform immediately. Others, there's that period of acclimation, right? Or reacclimation or whatever it is, meaning, moving to a new city and getting acclimated to the clubhouse and teammates, environment, everything. And not Luis Arraez. Dude's just, the guy just flat out hits. And his ability to put bat on ball and to use all fields is uncanny. And again, you hate making a comp to Tony Gwynn in San Diego, but he's a modern day all fields hitter that reminds you of Tony. I think that's fair to say. Nobody's saying he's Tony, but he's a modern day version of a guy that doesn't strike out a lot. Very rarely, 2 times maybe as a Padre in 70 plus plate appearances. And it's his ability to spray the ball, man, left field, right field, a little bit of power. He turned out a ball in the first inning on Nick Martinez and put it over the right field wall. I think he hit it 380 feet or 377 feet. So you had that. Drove in a couple, including with the solo home run, scored a run. He just does everything. He does a little bit of everything. And we were told, well, he's not a great defensive player. He may not be. You know me. I'm taking offense over defense every day of the week. Even I look at the defense here tonight for the Padres, and you're like, well, I'll kind of have to figure this thing out, right? Like, it's kind of odd. Like Tyler Wade and Luis Arraez. I don't think Luis Arraez has really good, metrics defensively, but I'm not overly concerned about it. I don't care what your defense is like. If you allow an extra run, but you have 2 hits in a game, it'll all even out to your advantage, truthfully. Or you allow an extra base runner. Yes, you can get beat on defense, no question. You want to play clean, Mike Schild always talks about. There's no question you can get beat by playing sloppy on defense, but I'll take my chances with a good offense. Like, you want to see this team have a good defense, or you want to see this team have a good offense? Like, what's more exciting? What's more entertaining? We've seen blah offenses and good defenses before. This defense will be fine. You've got unbelievable outfielders defensively in Merrill and Tatis. Profar is very good. You got unbelievable, corner guys in Cronenworth and Machado. You're fine defensively is my point. Even if you're switching some things up and Kim hasn't been the same defensive player you thought he'd be maybe this year, and Luis Arraez maybe is a step back defensively from what you had previously, maybe with Bogarts, even though he's learning a new position. I'm not worried about the defense. I'm not worried about the defenses at all. Mark, my man, what's going on? I was telling our viewers about Mark Nimitz earlier. You guys know the deal. If you have an insurance need, click the link in the description down below. Trust me, I've had insurance policies through Mark for years. Take advantage. He's going to save you money. He's going to save you time. And it was a great win. They needed it tonight. All of a sudden, people would have been chirping if they didn't win tonight, right? Oh, here we go again. 3 consecutive losses. Why can't we have nice things? Now, I'm still willing to say, why can't we have nice things because of the Bogarts injury? Like, I didn't really expect it because we talked last night, I think, on the wrap-up show, and I wasn't suspecting months-long injury. I just wasn't. I don't think you really ever expect that. Like, you watch the injury, it didn't look great. It didn't. I'm thinking maybe like shoulder subluxation or, minor dislocation or some type of, I don't know, like ligament strain or strained shoulder. And we heard the imaging initially was encouraging, and we'll see how he deals with the pain. Then boom, he's got a broken bone. So I didn't expect it. Now, do I think they can overcome it? I do. I do think they can overcome it. I do think it creates some challenges long-term. Anytime you lose a regular, no matter how the regular is performing, and you lose them for 50, 60, 70 games potentially or more, yeah, I think it's impactful. However, when you acquire a player like Luis Arraez, who plugs in at second base, you could be in a lot worse of a spot. Like, if you don't have Luis Arraez today and you don't have Xander Bogaerts today, you have some real questions to answer. But the good news is they do have Luis Arraez, and we'll figure it out when Xander comes back, I guess. Like, best case scenario is you don't skip a beat, and maybe you're a better offensive team because obviously, Bogarts wasn't performing offensively. And when he comes back, he's going to play. Like we always say, Bogarts isn't going to be a bench piece for this team. When he's healthy, he's healthy. And when he's healthy, he'll be back. So, it's not something to really worry about now. Like, what are they going to do when Xander comes back? What if Luis is playing? We'll worry about it then. Baseball has an amazing way of figuring itself out. You can never have too many options. It always works. It's not football where you have too many quarterbacks. That's a problem. You can't have 2 quarterbacks. You can't have 3 quarterbacks. It doesn't make any sense. Creates consternation, strain, problems, right? Becomes problematic. That's not the case in baseball. You figure it out. If you have too many shortstops, they become right fielders. You don't have enough shortstops, you move a second baseman, right? They'll figure it out, is what I would say. I guess my graver concern, or my bigger concern, is does it cause a setback not having Xander Bogaerts on your team in a lineup for 50, 60, 70 games. And you could argue both sides of that. I could say no, because he hasn't hit and he's underperformed. Or I could say yes, because he's a constant, he's a presence, he's a leader. He was due, right? There was going to be a regression, or not a regression, like positive momentum towards the mean. He was hitting well for 6 games. I could argue it either way. I could. I probably won't right now, but I could absolutely argue it either way. The positives and the negatives of what was going on with Xander Bogaerts, and what would be happening moving forward as well with Xander. Okay, I need to pull up this for my friends at Aura, ora.organic, guys. If you're looking to get healthier, look no further than my friends at Aura. They've been with us, like Mark, for the better part of the last 3 years. And if you support the channel, please support Aura and all of our partners. We can't do this without your support of our partners. I mean, it's as simple as that. Can't do the show as often as we do it if you're not supporting our partners. So thank you for your support of Mark and Aura and Finlead and Underdog Fantasy as well. Aura, here's the deal. Plant-based products, all of them are plant-based. The probiotic, which I love, take it every single day for digestion. It's plant-based. They have pre-workout supplements, proteins for after workouts, omega-3 oils, okay? You might be taking a fish oil. Take the omega-3 oil from our friends at Aura. You'll get the same health benefits. They have sleep pills, which I take, by the way, oftentimes after a wrap-up show, truthfully. They also have immunity pills for your overall health, and they have more. And they have a free shipping offer going on right now as well. So click that link in the description down below. Will, their co-founder, is such a terrific guy. He's a huge supporter of this channel. He's a lifelong Padres fan. He's a native San Diegan. Oh, by the way, this company is based in San Diego, right? Like Mark is, like Finlead. So if you want to support a local business, please click that link. If you want to get healthier, please click that link in the description down below. Anything else, guys, you want me to hit on before we call it a wrap on the wrap-up show? By the way, back tomorrow, 3 p.m., John and Jim wrapping up the series, because a 10 a.m. game means we'll hear from Mike Schilt, which has been entertaining on John and Jim. If you've been missing that, please join us. So you can join us on John and Jim. You can find, by the way, the John and Jim YouTube channel. Search for John and Jim 760. We've got a YouTube channel. So you can watch us on YouTube. You can listen to us on the free iHeartRadio app. Or, of course, you can listen on San Diego Sports 760. So we'll break down the series, get you ready for the Yankees. We'll be at the Naughty Barrel, by the way, Friday. Programming announcement for Friday. It's me and Coach on John and Jim. John Quintero, me and Coach. Jim, Wally Pipped. Last year, going to hear from Jim. No, I'm kidding. Jim obviously is getting married on Saturday and has his rehearsal dinner on Friday night, which I'll be at. But it'll be me and Coach Quintero Friday afternoon from 3 to 6. So please tune in. Please stop by. We'll be at the Naughty Barrel. They got great food. They have great drinks. We're talking Padres and Yankees. That'll be pretty fun afternoon with the Padres coming back, hopefully off a series win against the Cincinnati Reds. So I won't tell Jim, Rich. I will not. Carlitos, what's going on? He's watching from Indiana. Always cool to hear from people where they're watching from. Obviously, we have 1 million people in Southern California, San Diego, Tijuana. But then you see, Korea and Australia, New Zealand, Indiana. Not exactly Korea, Australia, New Zealand. Indiana's in the country. I don't know if Jim realizes that. But yes, Coach will be on the show on Friday. So yeah, join us Friday, join us tomorrow. I'll see about a wrap-up show tomorrow night, 10 a.m. game. I mean, it's so much time removed. So potentially, you know what? Let me say this. Like I always make like an ultimatum. How many subscribers are we at on this channel right now? 62, 61. We'll see. I mean, if we can get that number up, maybe 10 subscribers between now and tomorrow night, then I can consider doing it tomorrow night for you guys if you want to do it tomorrow night. But let's get some subs, though. I mean, it's so simple. I'm sure a number of you here right now have not subscribed, whether you're live or on replay. So let's get that number from 6261 to 6271. That's not asking for a lot, right? If we do that, we can do a wrap-up show tomorrow night. Although I think I have something tomorrow. But yeah, we get that number from 6261 to 6271. We'll do a wrap-up show. Of course, there's the wrap-up show on John and Jim as well for 3 hours, essentially from 3 to 6. But if you guys want a wrap-up show, we could try to do that for you tomorrow night. Let's get some additional subs, though. Just doesn't cost a dime. Just subscribe if you're here year-round content for Padres fans, the home of real Padres talk. So if you wouldn't mind subscribing, I appreciate it. Smash that like button for us. You can follow me on X at John Schaefer, and appreciate the supers like this one that just came in from JD Gaucho. Thank you, JD Gatcher. He says, please ask Coach about UCSD, how he feels about the Tritons getting decimated by the transfer portal. Okay. Yeah, I will absolutely do that, JD Gatcho. I'll do that for you.
I don't know, decimated. You know the business of. I think you're talking men's basketball. This is the business. I mean, low major to mid major to high major to professional basketball, high major to other high major. It's hard everywhere. It's hard across the landscape right now of Division I college basketball. I'll absolutely talk to him about it. I will absolutely talk to him about it. I'm happy to do that, and I appreciate the super chat. So thank you, man. So I'll do that. So join on Friday. We'll be talking about that. We'll be talking about the Padres and the Yankees as well. And join us tomorrow on San Diego Sports 760. I see a couple of subs have rolled in right now. So if you wouldn't mind subscribing, appreciate it. Let's get another 10 subscribers or so, and let's do another wrap-up show tomorrow night for Padres fans. Support our partners, Mark Nimitz at Farmers Insurance, who's been here. Click that link in the description down below if you have insurance needs. Aura, if you're looking to get healthier, ora.organic, or click that link in the description down below. Finley, we've been telling you all about this San Diego-based company. If you want to invest in a professional athlete, now is your opportunity. Click the link in the description down below for more information. And again, scan that QR code on screen or click the link in the description down below for a 50% deposit match plus a free special pick at underdogfantasy.com. Just use promo code PADSWRAP. That's PADSWRAP. Again, PADSWRAP. All right, the solo John and Jim and wrap-up show editions continue for the rest of the week because Jim's MIA. All right, I'm going to get to these supers that are still rolling in. I'm getting these supers that are still rolling in. Haven't gone anywhere as of yet. Thank you, David, for the generous super chat and for the joke, DFA Jim. And then he puts in parentheses, kidding. Are you kidding, though? Am I kidding? Should we designate Jim? And if we do, who are we then signing? Is it Coach? Is it Ben? Is it someone else that we're signing in that transaction? I don't think you can DFA Jim, right? Can we? His name is literally on John and Jim. But the wrap-up show, the name's not on the wrap-up show. We're kidding. We're kidding, right? We're kidding. All right, guys. Appreciate it. Padres win over the Reds 7-3 on Wednesday night. Wrap up a series. Rubber match on Thursday at 10:10. We'll see you tomorrow on John and Jim, and hopefully tomorrow night. Subscribe here for the wrap-up show. Thanks, guys. Peace.